All right, Larry Krueger here from the Pig and a Pickle Krug Show with a little 49er draft video. Check out Pig and a Pickle. They're in Emeryville and Corte Madera, the best barbecue in all of Northern California. Well, according to Aaron Wilson of KPRC Channel 2 in Houston, the 49ers are among the teams that have expressed, quote, heavy interest in Stanford wide receiver / tight end Elijah Higgins ahead of this week's NFL draft. Wilson says the Niners are not alone. He names the Dolphins, Vikings, and Titans as teams with significant interest in Higgins. Let's talk about Higgins. 6'3", 238 pounds, 4.54 speed, 35-inch vertical, 10.6 broad jump. He had 59 catches for 704 yards and only 2 touchdowns in 2022. There's a lot to like here. This is a really interesting player. I mean, very interesting player. In fact, Lance Zierlein, who does a lot of the NFL.com scouting thoughts on the players, said draft grades for Higgins could vary depending on teams envision using him in their offense. While teams might see him as a big possession receiver with limitations, he appears to have the necessary tools to become a dynamic, flexed-out tight end with the ability to work all 3 levels of the field. He has average ball skills but can run a more robust route tree than most tight ends, although he didn't do that at Stanford. Also, he has the frame and the technique to be an adequate run blocker in space. He might never be more than a backup at receiver, but could blossom for an offense ready to plug him in to a 2 tight end set. He's an Austin, Texas kid, earned a pre-draft grade of 6.2 from NFL.com, which equates to an eventual NFL starter. At the combine, he, as we said, 6'3", 235, 4.54 is his 40 time at the combine. To me, the other measurables, the ones that really stood out, the one that really stands out to me is the 10.5-inch hands. He's got huge hands. Huge hands. Pretty good strength, too. 17 reps on the bench press. He had a 7.13 3-cone drill time. And then at his pro day at Stanford, he ran 4.69. He had a vertical jump of 33 inches, a 20-yard shuttle of 4.5. NFL.com's projecting him as a 5th-round pick. The Niners have 3 picks in the 5th round. Let's talk a little bit about Higgins for a second. I've done the Stanford pregame show for a couple years, a number of years. Didn't do it this year, but Higgins is a guy who really busted out his junior year. Didn't do a whole lot the first couple years. Busted out as a junior with 44 receptions and 4 touchdowns. He went to Bowie High School in Austin, Texas. He was a 4-star high school recruit. Great athlete in high school. 3-sport player. I mean, he was a track star, and he did sprints, and he did the shot put. So, I mean, there aren't too many guys who do that right there. And he was a basketball player. And there's a lineage of football in this kid's family. His father played football at the University of South Florida. The big question is he a big slot receiver or is he a tight end? You know, he's weighing 230, 235. Do you have him lose 10, 12 pounds, get him into the 225 range and have him be a slot wide receiver? I don't know that he can do that. I mean, I don't know that he can lose that kind of weight. Do you put on 10 pounds and make him a flex tight end? To me, that's what I would do with him. This guy is fearless in the middle of the field. He makes plays, a lot of in-cutting routes. He owns the middle, and he's got really strong, big hands. He's got a good catch radius. He shows a real willingness to block as a receiver downfield, which is a totally different thing than inline blocking a defensive end. But still, you like to see somebody who shows interest in blocking. Some guys have no interest in blocking at all. Now, what's the downside of Higgins? His speed is build-up speed. He doesn't have first step quickness. He lacks quickness. He lacks short area quickness. When you're looking at that 4.54, that 4.54 time looks pretty good as a tight end. It's pretty mediocre as a receiver, but he lacks quickness. He lacks quickness into the break, out of the break. He definitely needs route running refinement. and a lot of it. I mean, he's an unrefined route runner. He's got more build-up speed. He lacks that quickness in the short area. He doesn't have stop and start and all the double moves, and he's not going to twist you into a pretzel with incredible footwork. It's not what kind of player he is. But where he really is good, he's a run after the catch monster. When I say he runs 4.54, kind of reminds me a little bit of Terrell Owens in that he runs 4.54, but he's faster with the ball in his hands. Elijah Higgins has run after the catch ability to be dynamic. Also 35-inch vertical, so he's got lower body explosiveness. I think this guy could be an absolute fifth-round steal. Now, the 49ers are looking at a bunch of tight ends, and there's the report here from Wilson is that they have serious interest in Elijah Higgins. If I was betting on a player to be a 49er coming out of this draft, this guy would be on the short list. This is the guy that it would absolutely Elijah Higgins. Why? Because one, I think the Niners, understand the value of him. They've met him. They've seen a lot of his stuff. They've talked to David Shaw, I'm sure, about what kind of player he is. And I just think Higgins is one of those guys that's going to be a better pro than he was a college player. And Stanford's had a number of guys like this. For whatever reason, they just didn't look good down on the farm. They get to the pros and they take off. Now, I really am excited when I see this guy running with the ball. Because he has got run after the catch explosiveness as a receiver or as a tight end. To me, though, where he's really a mismatch in this game, where the game's becoming more speed oriented. The linebackers are now 210 to 220. They're no longer 250 with Matt Millen neck rolls, and it's a different game. It's a speed game. Safeties are converted corners. Linebackers are converted safeties. DNs are converted linebackers. I mean, it's a speed game. Speed has won the day. And here's where Higgins is a mismatch. You take him and make him a flexed out tight end, he's already a natural walk around 235 pounds. I think it would be real easy for him to, over the course of a year, put on 10 pounds and still maintain that explosiveness. You get this guy the ball, and he's a mismatch. I think this guy would take Ross Dwelly's job from him. I think there's a very good chance that Higgins could be a very, very good tight end at the next level. I'm looking at Jordan Matthews last year in camp with the Niners, and he had bulked up to about 238, but it wasn't natural. And eventually he broke down. He had an injury. But I thought Jordan Matthews looked like, wow, this guy can make some plays down the field. This guy can be run after the catch. He looked explosive and dynamic. I think the 49ers could really use two tight ends in this draft. They could use a tough inline blocker who's got, underrated hands. They could use that player, but they could also use this player, the flexed out speed tight end who's a mismatch against linebackers that you can isolate in space and make big plays. And I think Higgins could be an absolute steal. So look for him on day 3, probably in the 5th round, maybe in the 6th round. And do not be surprised if you see the 49ers draft Elijah Higgins. And then the question is, hey, Kyle, hey, John, did you draft him as a tight end or did you draft him as a wide receiver? I think they're going to say, hey, you know what? He played wide receiver. We may look at him as wide receiver, but we think he's got a future in the NFL as an explosive receiving tight end. Elijah Higgins could wind up being one of the great sleepers in this upcoming draft if he embraces the physicality of being an inline blocker on the line of scrimmage against defensive ends. If he can get a little bit stronger, work on his route running, work on his quickness, just work on his overall game while getting a little stronger, the 49ers could look up in 2 years and say, you know what, Elijah Higgins was one of the best draft picks of the 2023 draft. All right, hope you enjoyed the video. Thanks to Pig and a Pickle. Check them out in Corte Madera and Emeryville, and thanks for supporting The Krug Show on YouTube.